Welcome to From Scratch. My name is Teresa Hodge. We are continuing with Reentry success stories. And today I have one of my new good friends from down south a little bit. You're going to hear a country accent. I love it.
What? You said I have a country.
See?
Okay. All right.
And I love to tease him. I call him Silver Fox, you know.
Oh my God. Yeah. Now I'm getting a complex.
I actually love it. There's a whole Instagram page of men with gray hair. So
I'm not on that.
yeah,
I promise you.
but I bet you'll be looking for it when you go home. This is Chris Bowen. He is the CEO and founder of Cumberland Marketing. I met him a few months ago in Arizona when we were doing a podcasting interview, and his production company was doing the filming. What was really obvious to me was just how much you understood the topic and how your heart was in it. I could see it in your eyes. And I've been in enough rooms to know when I'm in the presence of people who understand this issue, not from a far distance,
Yeah.
but it's personal to them.
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
and I don't know why it's personal to them, but you can just feel it.
Well, let's find out.
Let's do that.
We got a chance to talk then, and it was
Absolutely.
amazing to meet you. And
Yeah.
and immediately I knew, okay, this is somebody who gets it.
Mhm.
There's love in your heart. You've had some tough experiences, but you've been able to come out and really help a lot of people already, and just getting started, really.
Absolutely. And, today I will also shout out the fact that your company is on the other side of these cameras.
We're producing this series. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One
So,
of the great. It's one of the greatest honors ever
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get to do this.
yeah. So talk to me about what brings you to the topic of reentry.
I've been involved in reentry and trying to help reentry success for several years and working with different companies in the industry. But recently, being able to produce podcasts that that I know hundreds of thousands of incarcerated individuals are watching brings a whole new level of spirit and energy and motivation to what we do. So we love what we do. We love being able to bring people like you to the tablets.
Yeah.
And
So I want to pause for a second and say, if you've been watching podcasting on a prison tablet or shows like this, you partly maybe have this man to thank for it, and his team and his company, because if you've been doing it for a long time, what I do know is podcasting like this is unique and it's new. So, one, thank you for your work.
yeah, well, thank you for your work, Teresa. Without you, it wouldn't work if there wasn't people like you that had great energy and spirit that wanted to give back and wanted to help people be more successful with reentry. There's nothing to film. So
Yeah. Well,
kudos.
Thank you. You and I were having a conversation, and you were telling me that you're just as involved. And for people who are in prison, there's a lot of new language we're playing with outside. We are no longer, using language like inmates and ex-con and ex-felons and, language like that. I live outside of D.C. D.C. still uses the phrase returning citizens, a little bit better like that. But, I really believe in people first language, so I say people with conviction histories or people with arrest or conviction records. It's a lot of words. A new phrase is justice impacted, justice involved, indirectly impacted. We're playing with it, but the real thing is we're just trying to humanize the fact that people have records and we're all better than our worst mistake. So Chris the other day was telling me he was justice involved, and I was thinking, is he really? And so
So you question me on that. I'm like, I don't know. I thought that was the language.
yeah,
Like,
and in my mind I was thinking, well, has he been to prison? And then you said to me, I went to prison every other week.
yeah. So in my mind, I wasn't just as involved.
Mhm.
If you use that definition, I was just as impacted from what you've taught me later.
Yeah.
But I said, yeah, I went there every 2 weeks, to visit, and I felt like I was part of that place. I knew most of the staff by the time, like they check you in and they walk you in, and that whole visitation scenario, like you get to know people. So
Yeah. But who were you visiting?
visiting my adopted son, Shannon, who I had met when he was 12 years old. He was on my Little League football team. His mom dropped him off the first practice, and then I never saw her again. So I would take him to bring him to practice, take him home, try to take care of him, and we just bonded. And he just became like our own. Our family just kind of adopted him, and for 8 years, that was just he was kind of part of the family. So he got us some trouble. He went to prison. He was in for 10 years.
He was physically in prison for 10 years?
Yeah, maybe 12 actually. The prison, the state was for 10. So yeah.
And how old was he when he went to prison?
18.
And by that time, you knew him for how long?
6 years.
6 years. So you had created a strong relationship with this young man, and he was 12 when you met him. 6 years later, he was like a family member.
Yeah.
And so I will say that I was sitting inside of a prison in a visitation with Lauren, and Lauren's my daughter, and I was feeling sorry for myself. And she looked at me and said, "Mom, people don't go to prison. Families do." And even though, and when she said it to me, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. That it was the first time I realized I took my family to prison.
But she was suffering a great deal.
She was
too.
suffering, and I knew she was suffering. I knew my mom was suffering, my sisters were suffering, my nieces and nephews, my brother-in-laws, like everybody felt helpless in that moment. They couldn't protect me.
That's exactly how I felt when Shannon was sentenced. And I remember the day in court, and he had been in for a minor charge for 2 years in the local jail. And, I didn't get to see him. There was no visitation. So the only time I seen him was when he came to court for the sentencing hearing, and we thought that he might get 2 to 5 years. And his sentence was for 30 years.
Oh my
with
God.
10 off, and so, but serving 20 years. And my heart's thinking, I don't ever think I've ever been that angry in my life or that emotionally upset, and that, that does impact me, so that impacted my family. And I'm not trying to play the victim, because I was not. I was just felt that bad for him, and so that was one of the, and so I was angry for a long time. I mean, for a year or two. You can communicate now with the tablets and the phone, and so I was able to communicate, but I was still just so angry. So I think we spent way too much time lamenting and anguishing, and not having any type of plan to move forward in a more positive way. And I think at some point it snapped at me, like, okay, this is enough. Like, we got to start getting ready for the next chapter, and I want to help him spend his time better while he's there.
Was there an event or something, or you just basically had just mourned enough, like the season of mourning was over?
I can't remember back to one just time, but I think, I've been working in this industry, ironically, even before, while Shannon was in prison. So,
so you were seeing and being exposed to the industry, engaging with other people who were in prison, corporations that were
I was
working
going
around
in,
it?
Yeah, I was being able to go into prison to do video work and interviews, and so I think it sickened me more when part of the work going inside and then seeing what he was living in. I guess I was able to more vividly imagine it when I'm at home, and that gave me more discomfort. But that's why I said, like, I've got to turn this into something positive, or it's going to kill me. So I started sending him books. I started getting him motivated. Like,
What kind of books would you send him initially?
Just, I don't remember the first book, but just inspirational stuff, or character development, mainly character development, because that's a challenge for anybody, whether you're you're incarcerated or not. It's things that I was learning, on the outside. So, I try to make an effort towards that as a human being to have a better character. So, like, well, he needs to be doing the same thing, because I just think it's going to help him on the inside to spend his time better. Because the the chemicals in your brain are going to be more healthy when you're trying to be healthy. Now he worked out,
Hmm.
and so that was good.
Most people, yeah, I was in the best shape of my life while I was in prison.
Yeah,
Nothing but a lot of time. I don't know if I've ever have been able to walk, you know, 4 hours a day since I've been home. I mean, it's kind of hard to
you
find
know,
4 hours to
yeah,
walk, but while you're in prison, you can walk, you can run, you can use your bed. Like, there are just so many ways,
right.
that you figure it
You would
out.
never take 4 hours on the outside because there's 100,000 things
Yeah,
to do.
not unless they gave me 30 hours in a day.
Well, that was another thing when Shannon was inside. Surprisingly, everybody thinks, well, they're just sitting around doing nothing,
Yeah.
But there was actually a lot of competition for mind space because there's if you're not in your cell. Now, if you're locked down, a
Hmm.
different story. But there's all kinds of activities that you can do in the yard,
Hmm.
outside, interacting with people. But then also with the tablets, there's a lot of things on there. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of entertainment stuff on there. So unless you're purposefully trying to build character or trying to seek out helpful information, there's a lot of things that'll take your mind elsewhere.
Absolutely. One of the things I know is there, for a lot of people, I mean, there are a variety of prisons and jails. They're all not the same. I was in a federal facility, but I also had the unfortunate pleasure of going on a writ to get a sentence reduction, and you know, the government allowed me to do some jail hopping. During that period, and when I say it, I'm laughing and talking about it because it was nothing fun. But what I got to see was, you know, where I wasn't so bad in comparison. There are some places that are really, really, really bad where there is no yard.
Yeah,
You don't get to walk around for 4 hours a
right.
day like I could where I was. But these prison tablets, it's a game changer because the prison tablets today that many people are consuming this information, it's in jails, it's in detention centers, and it may be their only lifeline to meaningful content that they have in their hands that they can control. And so, getting
So
access
let's
to
use it for the
content,
good, Like,
absolutely, absolutely. So, creating content like this. But let's go back to, because I think it's important for those of us who are incarcerated to understand the impact and the toll on our family, and kind of what they're feeling and thinking. Every now and then, I hear Lauren say something, or my sisters, or my mom, and I get a window into what they were thinking and feeling. And to be honest, it hurts
yeah,
when I hear it.
yeah.
It hurts that you know my choices, me being in prison, impacted them. You
Well, I think the word that comes to mind for the family member
know. Uh-huh.
in my mind is just it's the word helplessness.
Yeah.
At first, there's helplessness, but you have to turn that into positive actions
Hmm.
that help support them. Then it becomes more of um, a positive synergy because you're turning something bad, a bad situation, into something good, and
Absolutely.
that's how most great things
Hmm.
are developed is from challenges.
Hmm.
And so I look back on that and I said that was a challenge. But if you're a family member, the more you love that incarcerated individual,
Hmm.
the more it hurts, frankly.
Hmm. No, I believe that. No, I honestly believe it. I have one sister.
I felt so much. Let me just interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I
No,
felt
no.
so much guilt too. Like I had Shannon for 6 years, and I tried to make a good impact in
Hmm.
his life. But he was facing a lot of challenges from just not having family, and a lot of the things that a lot of his mindset. It was just he was bound and determined to get into trouble. But I still look back on it and think I could have done more. I should have done more. And I think probably a lot of family members feel that is what could I have done to prevent that?
Well, I feel like if I keep going, I'm going to be like you and I both are going to be in therapy, like in this conversation.
Yeah,
And I'm not qualified, you know.
me neither.
you know.
Me neither.
But what did you do? Let's talk about how did you turn that feeling of helplessness into positive energy?
Well, I know. Sorry, I started holding him accountable on some things,
Good.
because I tried to support him from a monthly financial, because you got to have commissary. There's so many things
It's
that you need money for in
everybody in
prison.
prison understands it's
Yeah,
expensive to
they
be in
do, but
prison.
a lot of the people on the outside
Absolutely.
do not
Yeah,
understand
they think,
how.
oh, you have everything you need, you got it made. No, you don't.
No, and
Yeah,
everything is expensive, more
absolutely.
so than it could or should be.
And
But
that burden falls on the family.
yeah, so I wanted to support him. Like I don't want him to be in there doing without. So um, I found after a while that I'm almost harming him if I just send him money. Okay, um, no matter how much it wasn't that much. It
Hmm.
was just, but I'm probably doing him more harm because that teaches that mindset of take and take. And I started trying to hold him accountable. So like, Shannon, I want to know. I want these books that I'm sending you. I need to know you're reading them.
Hmm.
So I would have him send me reports back. So he did. He got to where he would write it on the tablet, or he would sometimes write it out and mail
Oh,
it.
he had access to a tablet?
Hmm.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So the very people that I've been working for, in this industry, I was one of their main customers.
Wow.
So yeah, you didn't know that?
That part I didn't know. Well, when I was in prison, they didn't have tablets. When I was in prison, they didn't have MP3 players. Like the whole technology boom, so to say, inside of a prison, you know, it's still relatively new.
Hmm.
And not every facility have, tablets or MP3 players. There's some places that are still just, deserts. They don't have anything. People are
Yeah.
just writing.
Well, people need to take advantage of,
Yeah.
while they're there now. That is available in pretty much everyone. So take advantage of it, because when you come out, I mean, reentry success, and we actually did a series on this. It starts at day one, and when I heard 12 people sitting and talking about that for an hour, how success starts on day one, and it does, um, because day one I got to experience it. It's bad. I mean, like
And
you
when you
experienced it.
say day one, are you calling
When he
day
came,
one the day that he was released from
sorry,
prison?
yeah, I should have said the day he came out.
Uh-huh.
We had talked about for 10 years all the things
Got it.
that we were going to do
Uh-huh.
together,
Uh-huh.
and all the things that we were going to live life and just
Mhm.
have this exciting time. And I think we tried to do too much right, immediately, and it overwhelmed him. I think it set him back
Wow.
because, and I've heard you talk about this, but like when you just on the ride home,
Mhm.
most of the people that I've talked to, like they get sick on that first car
Oh, yeah.
ride
A
home.
lot of people, it's the first time they've been in a car in however long,
Yeah,
and they get motion sick.
and we had a lot of our family was there, like couldn't wait to see Shannon. So a lot of the family was at our house waiting for
Oh, yeah.
when we got there, and
That's
Shannon was
overwhelming.
overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like
a lot.
he, I noticed he was kind of off to the side a lot, and everybody's around, and I don't know, that's still like confounds me. But it was like you think you want to go around and hug everybody and be all joyful, and it was like.
It's a lot to process. I think that, for a lot of people who are not in prison, they have plans and dreams and aspirations and of how you're going to come back and fit neatly back into the life that you left. And the truth is, you're evolving and you're disconnected. Today, I can tell you I was in prison for almost 5 years. I've been home for 13. I can sit and listen to my family and I realize, oh, they're talking about something I know nothing about,
Mm.
because that experience doesn't include me. And although,
That
sometimes
hurt.
it's painful.
Yeah.
And I'm listening and I'm observing, and it's almost like I'm watching a movie, of the life I should have had and that they think I'm a part of, and they don't know where the holes are that don't include me.
Yeah. Well, I know that you asked. I don't know if you asked me this. We're gonna ask me this, but in the short time we have, like I wanted to make sure that I get this across before I forget it. Is
He's the silver fox, y'all.
there are so many things that Shannon faced that we faced together when he came out. The probation officer. I mean, I went with him to the first meeting, and I was astounded at how negative she was. And I'm sure she's been burned by a lot of people, and you got to earn trust, and you do. After, so it turned us off, and I'm like, oh my God, how are you going to stay out of going back?
Yeah.
Like she's going to catch you at every little turn.
Yeah.
and I knew how rebellious he was. So somehow he's still out. It's been 2 years, so that worked.
Good.
But he had to really work on earning her respect and trust.
Does he have the same probation officer today?
I think they changed
Yeah, a
about
lot
after
of
a year.
yeah, a lot of times what happens is you'll have a probation officer, and you might have several. I think I was on probation for 3 years, and I think I had like 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah, they move
That's
you
even
around.
more challenging because you got to
It
keep
is.
building
You
the
got to
trust again.
build new relationships
Yeah.
with people, and and you're right. There are times when it's a mind game. You don't know what to do, how to do, if they're going to interpret what you're saying as truthful or not.
Well, there's some contradictions too because,
Yeah.
like she said, okay, so you have to have a job. You've got to get a job
Yeah.
immediately, and you have to have a job the whole 3 years you're on probation. Well, when you come out of prison, you don't have a car.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to get to work?
Yeah.
So that falls on
Yeah.
the family,
Yeah.
and it did. There was a
Family
lot
or
of
a
those.
support system, because fortunately for Shannon he had you. Fortunately, I have my
Fortunately,
family. Not
yeah.
everybody has
Not
family.
everybody does it. I've
So it's a
seen
support system or it's figure it out.
way more don't have that
Right.
that come out. They don't know how to use a phone, or like if they've been in for a while, that the whole cell phone thing and the speed at which everything is evolving these
Right.
days. That's a whole nother challenge. We don't need to talk about
Yeah.
that. They'll see that when they when it's time.
Yeah.
But that was just
What's funny to me, I'm processing that Shannon shows up for probation with his dad. I'm processing that.
because I had to take him. Like, how else would he get there?
Right. No, but you went in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm processing.
Oh.
Is what was that like for Shannon? And what was that like for the probation officer? And what was it like for you?
That experience was just it blows
Yeah.
my mind because it was COVID,
Oh.
and so she stayed behind a wall. I mean, we literally just came into the waiting room, and it was very small waiting room, and so we were just sitting there. So she's talking to us through the glass, so we didn't go anywhere out of
Got
that
it.
entrance.
Yeah.
That's why it was such a kind of a weird impression. Like, wait a minute, you're treating us like we're disease.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So is Shannon working today?
Yeah, he's been able to keep jobs. He's changed jobs a few times, but he's a great worker. I mean, in this day and age, workers are in demand,
Mm-hmm.
so he has his pick of different jobs.
Good for him. And so how are you doing?
I'm great. I mean, like, but it's fueled me to want to work with seeing the problems that he faced on the inside, seeing the problems he faced as he's gotten out, and challenges to not going back. I mean, our hearts and spirits are aligned, Teresa.
Mhm.
Like what you're trying to do, like that's what I
So
want
it's
to help
bigger
you
than
do.
Shannon for you today.
Yes, yes, it is. I couldn't say that any stronger, but
Yeah.
as much as I love Shannon, and all this has been made personal to me,
Uh-huh.
I've also seen and experienced hundreds of others
Mhm.
of these same types of
Mhm.
dynamics.
Mhm.
And yeah, if I can be a help in that, then please, Lord, use me to do that.
One, it's good, I think, for people to understand and know the impact on our families, but then also to know that there are corporations today, like yours, that are aligned with this work of bringing attention to mass incarceration in our country. It's a huge problem. And sometimes while you're sitting in a prison, you're not reading the data about prison. I didn't know that 1 in 3 Americans have an arrest or conviction records, or that, almost 80 million Americans have an arrest or conviction record. Like, that's staggering.
And look at the ripple effect of that. If 1 in 3, so the ripple effect of that is more. That means more are just as impacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost everybody is
Yeah.
just as
See,
impacted.
now that he learned the word, now
Yeah.
he's just like
I'm
throwing
gonna-
it around like
I'm going
he's
to
an
use
expert.
it left and right.
Now that he actually didn't go to prison, I'm glad that I was able to help you with that part of it. So I have a question for you. Does your company hire people with records?
Yes, we have, and I hired him. I can't say his name, but I hired him, and he was fresh out. He was good in music, so I thought we can use him for editing, and he was very useful. He worked for me for 2 years. He had the same experience when he came out. He was buff. I mean, he had worked out and he was lean, and then 3 months later, I think he was almost at 300 pounds.
Yeah,
He came out and enjoyed it.
because you get to eat some real good food.
I know. I would be the same way, but loved and
Yeah.
supported.
Was he a good worker?
Yeah.
Great.
I had a good experience with, so I wouldn't hesitate to hire somebody that has been just as impacted,
Nope.
just as involved.
Yep. Or just been to prison.
You've just been to prison.
The language is complicated, but what we get it is people go to prison. So you are willing to hire people with records, and what I know is you're not alone. A lot of corporations are willing to do that. So tell me, what are the qualities, that you're looking for? Because it's good for people to know that you can be in prison today, and you can be doing something while you're in prison
Yeah.
that makes a company like you want to hire them.
Exactly, and I'm gonna, just like with anybody else, I'm gonna look at what have you been doing. So now that there is access to tablets, there's access to information. What I've been talking about as far as how you spending your time. Are you spending your time effectively to try to better yourself, to try to build your character, to try to build your knowledge base? I'm going to look at that, and then I'm going to talk to them. I think in interviewing, a lot of times you have to get that feel, that spirit, and then trust your gut. But that's one of the things I'm looking for. It's just like you're coming out. I know you don't have a resume. The guy that I hired, I didn't say his name. The guy that I hired, he didn't have a resume. He just had somebody told that I knew in prison said this is a really good guy. But there's other ones that I know that have came out and had stacks of certificates that they earned while incarcerated.
And then there's some people who come out with a resume because the facility that they're in is a little bit more sophisticated and they have it, or they have a family member or someone in their support network who prepares their resume.
Yeah.
I used my skill sets while I was in prison. I ran our chapel. It was administrative work. It's on my resume.
Yeah.
So there's not a break
And
in
that
my
should
resume.
count.
There's
That
not-
should count.
I made it count.
Yeah.
It's not a break. I mean, if you're in federal prison, they make you work.
Right.
There was no sitting around. So I took that work and I was able to put it on my resume.
There's plenty of opportunities to demonstrate leadership while you're in there.
Absolutely. So that's a good thing. What you're saying is, just talk about leadership. And so one of the things we will make sure is that we provide some samples of resumes that people can use and know how to, not every resume has to be time specific. It could be skill set specific. But, I am so happy, to meet you.
I love you, Teresa.
I love you
I
back.
love you, really.
I love you back. I call him the silver fox only because I really, really like him.
Thanks for that
and
term of
it makes
endearment.
them smile.
Yeah, thank you.
But I'm also grateful for the work that your company, your team does. What I know is you guys care. And I know the company cares because you care as well. So really appreciative of the work. I am rooting every day for Shannon, but what I also know is it's his journey. I hear your heart. If you could do it for him, you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back here in the background right now, just supporting.
Yeah.
And letting him learn some things, and always here as a resource. And so I think that's what I would want to encourage most families. Maybe there's an expectation. You want them to come out and start being successful in that first day, first week, first year. And that's not always realistic.
Yep.
So
And
give them grace and let them
Yeah.
make their mistakes and learn, and then keep going.
And to be honest, it's just another layer of pressure, because for a lot of us, we have our expectation, our desire, our shame, our guilt. I carried for a while my family's, shame and guilt and feeling like I tarnished our family's name and so forth. But, today, I made I made their name a little.
You made up for it.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah. But anyway, I am, again, so grateful
Thank
to
you,
meet you,
Teresa.
so grateful for our partnership and for the work we're doing. And again, really, I'm happy that I was able to introduce you guys to Chris Bowen, the CEO and founder of Cumberland Marketing.
Thanks for the time. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.